of experience with club coaching. So this will be an exciting time for us to learn and share our knowledge. We want this to be interactive as well. There will be some specific times when we're asking you questions, so feel free to type your answers in the chat or shout them out online. And if you have any questions during the presentation, you can raise your digital hand and we'll address those, but we'll also have Q&A at the end. So if you don't feel like interrupting, you can also write your questions down and ask them at the end of the session. Any comments or questions before we begin? All right, as you can see, we are recording this meeting, so keep that in mind. And if you want to make sure that you don't appear in the recording, you can always turn your camera off, but we will try to do the recording with the speakers as the ones who are highlighted. The speakers and potentially their cats if the cats decide to play with us today. So I am Jessica Codr. I am a distinguished Toastmaster and the current club growth director. And also presenting today is Linda Wilson, distinguished Toastmaster and past district director. We both have some knowledge of coaching, especially of the legacy program, as we call it. And we, like all of you, are learning and getting up to speed on the new program in Pathways. So we are excited to share what we have learned and hear your questions and anything else that you want to add to the discussion as well. We did ask in the registration what you all wanted to learn about, so we're going to do our best to cover all of those items in our presentation today. You wanted to know about an overview of coaching, how to become a coach, the role of the coach, what things have changed in recent years, how to help a club find their identity, and what club coaching entails from beginning to end. So by answering some core questions, I believe that we will address all of those items because we are going to talk about the what, who, why, how, and when of club coaching. I think the first thing you should figure out when you're learning about coaching or when you're learning about anything is, what is it? So what is coaching? Here is our first opportunity for audience participation. How would you define coaching? You can raise your hand and I'll call on you, or you can type something in the chat. See some of you typing. Yes, guiding a team to success, guiding. And I like that you said team. Cynthia.
Someone who has knowledge that helps someone else to get that knowledge.
Yes, I like that as well. I see providing constructive feedback to others to help them achieve their goals. I love that you used the word goals. That's key. Directing and encouraging towards a goal. I like the theme of goals. Well, I consulted everyone's favorite resource, Wikipedia, to see how Wikipedia defined coaching. And it said that it is a form of development in which an experienced person, Cynthia, I think, drilled in on that, supports a learner or client or a team in achieving a specific personal or professional goal by providing that training and guidance. So you all were spot on in your definitions as well. And for Toastmasters, their take on coaching is that the club coach program allows experienced, there's that word again, experienced Toastmasters to assist in rebuilding club membership and restoring club quality. So those are the goals of the coach, is to help the club rebuild their membership and restore club quality. We often think of coaching as simply trying to rebuild membership because we assign coaches to clubs that are lower in membership, but making sure that the club is holding quality meetings and following best practices is a big part of being a coach as well. Here's our next interactive section. We've talked a little bit about what coaching is, but what does a coach do? If you want to shout out your thoughts for what might go in these blanks or type it in the chat, I would welcome that. What might a coach build with officers and members? There are many possible answers. Especially at the beginning of the relationship. Rapport! I think Claire may have seen this before because she's exactly right. Build rapport with officers and members. What are some things that a coach might try to instill in the club? Some things they might want to try to bring to the club that the club might be lacking. Confidence, I like that. Camaraderie, that is one of the answers that's going to show up in a minute here. Any other thoughts? Teamwork, I like that. I like that. Here's some other possibilities. Enthusiasm, camaraderie, which we heard, and structure. Often when a club is struggling, they're feeling kind of beaten down, so bringing that new burst of enthusiasm can really help. And sometimes the reason they're struggling is because they may not be following the agenda or they may not have a good sense of structure, so bringing that structure to the club is really valuable as a coach as well. And what might a club coach assess? What is something they might assess? Remember, they're trying to help the club achieve their goals. They're trying to help the club grow membership and ensure quality. So what might they assess in that process? First impressions, absolutely. Performance, yes. You could group a lot of that together as club environment. What is the club like? Yes, the quality of the club and the club environment. And what might they recommend for the club based on what they observe in their assessment? Changes or improvements. Yes, exactly. Those changes often fall in the realm of best practices. And yes, club culture is a big part of that as well. I agree. Now, one key part of coaching is that you're not there to do all the work for the club. So you're establishing this relationship, you're bringing this enthusiasm, you're observing, you're recommending, but then it's really up to the club to do the work, and you are there to help them. So, what is something you might help the club develop? A growth plan. Yes, exactly. Or more generally, a success plan, which includes goals for growth. Yes, there you go, Claire. I should have waited to give you enough time to finish typing because you got it exactly right. And then the coach will also monitor and report. What will they monitor and report on? Progress, exactly. You all are on top of this. Monitor and report on progress. And all of this is to motivate the club to strive for. Any guesses what the club should strive for? Success, absolutely. And what is one way that Toastmasters measures success or defines success? What is one specific way? Distinguished status. Exactly right. You all are really on top of this. So you know what a coach needs to do. That's amazing. So now that you know what a coach does, Linda is going to talk to us a little bit about who qualifies to receive coaching and who qualifies to be a coach. And make sure you unmute, Linda.
Thank you, Jessica. Yes, now the very important question is who qualifies to be a club coach? we have the two aspects here. Who qualifies to receive the coaching or the club, and who qualifies to be a coach. Who do you think would qualify to receive coaching? Any ideas? Requirements. We're going to go through a few of these. We'll start out to say they have to have 3 to 12 clubs, or as Claire said, and Amy, low member club. So 3 to 12 members. And another important aspect is that they have not yet been suspended or closed. Another requirement, whoops, okay, here we go. They do not already have 2 coaches, and the officer has completed a training module. Is everyone familiar with that? Have some of you completed that? I'm not seeing everyone there to answer that, but that is a requirement to receive coaching, that at least one officer, preferably more, but at least one, has completed the training module. Now, as far as to be a coach, you do need to be a member of Toastmasters for 1 year or more. That is a requirement. And you have to have served as a club officer for 1 year or more. Now, that officer term could be 1 annual term or 2 semi-annual terms. So there are options there. And you need to have completed level 2 in pathways. Again, another option is the Legacy Awards of Advanced Leader Bronze or Advanced Communicator Bronze can also qualify in place of level 2. You need to have not coached another club, since you can only coach 1 club at a time, and not be a member of the club that you will be coaching within the past 6 months prior to the appointment. And you cannot join the club while appointed as a coach either. And notice that you need to have completed that training module that we discussed. So here's a kind of a no-brainer, but what items do each of these have in common? Don't answer all at once. It's that last step, the one receiving the coach. Pardon me? Yes.
The training module.
Yes, thank you, Pam. Completed the training module. That is what they both have in common there. So, oops, I think we're 1 slide too fast there. No, never mind. That was our answer. Who qualifies? That's right. Who qualifies? That's right, the training. Now the how section. Or actually, who else is involved? 2 very important leaders are involved. One who is here that you will recognize, our club growth director. There she is, Jessica Codr. She is very important in the role of facilitating the match between the club and the coach. So if you are interested in being a coach, she is your go-to. Or in fact, if you would like to have a coach, then your club, you would start with Jessica to help facilitate the match. Another very important person on the District 24 leadership team is our district director, Cindy Jenkins. She actually approves the match between the club and the coach and submits the paperwork. Yes, we'll talk about that later. There is some new paperwork that has been a part of this club coaching now, and that paperwork being submitted is a requirement. Those are the individuals very important in helping to accomplish this. Okay, this is a little smaller, but I think I can see who are our current coaches. And I see in our district, how many? 4. or club coaches?
Or
So far, yes. Thank you, Jessica. So far. So as we see, we have Rebecca Fagan, who was appointed as a coach for West Dodgers on September 27th, 2024. We have David Gillis, who was appointed as a club coach for Advanced Toastmasters of Omaha on November 3rd, 2024. We also have Marion Gramlich, who was appointed club coach for Kearney Toastmasters Club on September 18th, 2024. And last but not least, yours truly, I, Linda Wilson, was appointed as a club coach for First Tier Club on November 12th, 2024, not so long ago. Those are the individuals. Now think about it for a minute. How many District 24 clubs, don't answer, we'll talk about this later, do you think are eligible for coaches right now in our district? Keep that in mind, and we'll discuss this a little bit later. Just noticing that we only have 4 coaches and the opportunity maybe for more. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Oh, okay. Another aspect of why. Why should we request a coach? And why should you be a coach? Okay, let's think about this. Why would we want to request a coach? I'm going to open that up in the chat real quick for any ideas. Why would you want to request a coach for your club if you fall within the 3 to 12 members in your club? A low member club. Whoops, it's going quickly. Need ideas to find new members. Encourage growth, yes. In a low membership, need fresh ideas. Those are all very, very good ideas. So yes, we need new ideas and energy. You were spot on there. And we need help with setting goals. And maybe just to meet another person, another individual who can energize and help your club, again, with ideas. The club is the one that needs to take the action, but the club coach is going to offer the support and the energy and the guidance. Networking, just to help with networking, is another great idea for requesting a coach. Those are some of the ideas. I'm sure there could be more. Those are the key ones. Do you have any other ideas? And moving forward to why be a coach. Ideas there. Why would you want to be a club coach? For personal growth. Excellent, Megan. Achieve your DTM. Yes, earn your Distinguished Toastmaster designation. Those are the ones, so it benefits you and the club because you're developing those skills. When you think about it, team building, facilitation, problem solving, diplomacy, those different skills sets. And you're sharing your expertise and enthusiasm. And as it said there, you're helping others and you're earning credit for the Distinguished Toastmaster, keeping in mind the club must become distinguished for this to happen. Also, the networking, and it's fun. It is fun to just be a part of another club. That energy and enthusiasm, it's great. It's a win-win, really. And another side benefit that I think about is that I can bring to my club these skill sets and new energy and enthusiasm that I've achieved or learned back to my club. And it's contagious. It brings new enthusiasm and energy to your club and new ideas. So it is definitely a win-win for both personally and for your club.
Well, now that we've gotten you excited, I hope, about either being a coach or requesting a coach for your club, we are going to look at how does this work. Here's where we get into the details of how do you become a coach, how do you receive coaching, and what does that whole process look like from beginning to end. So the first step is to complete that online training module. That applies for both the club and the member who wants to be a coach. And anyone can go online and complete that training module. There are a few steps to get there, and I will show you all of those. I will also make this PowerPoint available after the training so that you can review it and use it to help you find that training if you have not already taken it. So you go to Toastmasters, you log in, you'll see a go to Basecamp card because this training is in Basecamp. After you're in Basecamp, the brand new Basecamp, things have been reorganized a little bit. You should scroll down and see a section called Suggested Learning. This is if you have not already completed the training. You'll click on the Club Coach program. That will bring you to another screen where you have to click on some things again. So you have to once again click on Club Coach Program module and then click on Club Coach Program. I guess they want to make extra sure that you really want to take this training because you have to click 3 times to get to it. But once you've finally gotten to the training, you can click Start Course and navigate through the different screens. Make sure you go through all of them all the way to the end. And when you finish the training, this is key, you know that you have received credit when you see it show up in that completed section in Basecamp. So you will see a completed section in Basecamp, and the Club Coach program that used to be in that suggested training section is now in the completed section. That's how you will know that you have completed it. If you stop in the middle, it will show up in the in progress section, and you can go back in and complete it. Any questions about that before I go on? There's quite a few steps to get there that I will make this available after so that you can review it and use it to help you find your way. Well, after the club and the member who wants to be a coach have both completed this training module, the next step, as we already mentioned, is to express interest. I am here to help facilitate these matches, so I recommend that either the coach or the club both email either me at my club growth director email address, or if you use that top 3 at d24tm.org, that will go to all 3 of the trio members. So that will go to me, Carol, and Cindy Jenkins. So we will all see that you are interested in being a coach or receiving a coach. And now that you are interested in making this happen, the next step is to try to find a good match, because I'm not just going to assign you to a club. I might suggest a club or I might suggest a coach, but the next step is to go and make that connection to see if it's a good fit. So a club should be ready to welcome potential coaches as visitors, as guests, and the member who wants to be a coach should be ready to visit clubs that are eligible for a coach. You can either look them up on the Toastmasters.org website to find some clubs that qualify, or if you would like help finding those clubs, I have a list that I can share with you and help you find one that fits your schedule, matches with where you are located, and you can, again, go and visit them. That's the key. We want you to talk to the club before you sign on to be a coach and see if it's a good fit. So after you've visited, how do you make it official? Well, the club should agree that they would like this individual to be their coach. It's recommended that you have a vote to accept them as your coach. And as the member, you can check in and see if the club has accepted you as a coach. Because if it's not a good fit, that's okay. We want this to be a good experience for everyone. So you might find that the coach doesn't match with the club's personality, or maybe it's a community club, but the coach only has experience in the corporate world, or vice versa. in those situations, maybe it's not a good match, and that's okay because we have plenty of clubs that need coaches, and we can find the coach a club that is right for them. So if it's not a good match, you can go back and visit other clubs, look for other coaches. And if it is a good match, this is where that paperwork comes in. Oh, Claire asked if she could take the module again. Thank you for pointing that out, Cynthia. Yes, you can take the module again. You can launch it from that completed section and review the content again. Yes, absolutely. So if it is a good match, you will want to look at that club coach agreement. You can find this online, or I can provide it for you. It basically lists all of the requirements that we already went over, and then has a part for the club coach and the club president or their delegate to sign. And as we mentioned, Cindy Jenkins is the official one that signs off on the appointment, so she will sign this document as well and send it to World Headquarters. You will notice there are 2 spots for club coach, so if you are fortunate enough to have a pair of people who would like to coach together, you can submit both of their names at the same time, but you don't have to do that. You can have one coach and you can have another coach join later, or just always have one coach, whatever works best for you and the club. And I will note that with the 2 coaches, if maybe if you qualify to be a coach, but you're not as experienced and you're not sure, let me know and I can try to find a more experienced person to pair you with. That's one of the reasons that we have that option to have 2 coaches assigned, so that you can get coaching as a coach. Any questions about that process of making it official? Now we'll get into what do you do after you're appointed. This is the part that is quite new in the Pathways program, and I'm very excited about it because when I was a coach before, it very much felt like you were thrown into the deep end. Hey, you're a coach, good luck. But now they have reports and guidance to help you succeed as a coach. So it is required that the club and the coach meet to discuss their status of the club and to set goals, because the coach needs to fill out a preliminary report within 30 days of their appointment. That's one of the requirements of being a club coach. And there's a lot of background information that the club coach is to collect to make sure that they really understand the club, which I think is fantastic. So making sure that they know who the members are, making sure that they know who the officers are, looking at their performance in recent years. And then finally, there are some questions at the end about the goals. What are the club's goals? So they have to be able to set those goals. And then an action plan. You have to actually set an action plan and submit it so that you are able to succeed in your role. Claire asked if there's a list of clubs who have asked for a coach. I do have that list right now. There's actually only one club that has officially asked for a coach, but it doesn't have one yet. But there are many clubs that qualify and that I'm sure would be thrilled to have a coach. I would love for those clubs to reach out to me, but even if they don't, I can reach out to them and see if they are interested in having a coach. The one that has officially requested one is Sunrise in Lincoln, Nebraska. They're the one that I have on my list as officially asking for a coach. Great question. Well, as hopefully you all know, discussing status and goal setting is not just a one-time event. So another requirement is that the club and the coach continue to meet regularly, create and review those action plans, and discuss progress. Because here's another report. Every 60 days, that club coach needs to fill out a progress report to see how the club is doing. What is a reiteration of their goals so that we make sure we know what we're trying to achieve, a check-in on how they're currently doing every 60 days so you can see the progress they're making, and then some questions about how you're going to make sure you succeed. What initiatives have you taken as the coach? Maybe you've led some training modules or attended the club executive meetings, membership drives you may have helped with. What have you done? What are the challenges that have been faced? How are you going to address or overcome these challenges? And here, I think this question is fantastic. What additional assistance does the club require from the district? I love that this is on this form because, again, in the past, coaches would often go off and try to do their thing, and there might not be a lot of discussion between the coach and the district leaders about how things were going. Now you're required to tell the district leaders how things are going and also ask them for help if you need it. So I think this is a fantastic improvement to the program. And you will send that report to top3@d24tm.org. So all 3 TRIO members. If you read toastmasters.org, the requirement is that you send it to the district director, but we decided that all 3 of the TRIO members would like to see the report so that we can all help and check in on the progress. Well, with all of this ongoing work, goal setting, action plans, frequent check-ins, I am very confident that eventually the club will become distinguished. That is the next thing that will surely happen. It might not happen right away, but that's okay because you have up to 2 program years to get the club to distinguish in order to receive that distinguished Toastmaster credit. And in fact, even if you don't succeed in those first 2 years in becoming distinguished, you can get reappointed for another 2 years. So of course we want the clubs to become distinguished this year, but it's okay if it takes a little more time. Sometimes it does. Any questions about this process of engaging in the coaching program and the new forms that are required?
I know what you've discussed, Jessica. It can seem at first a little daunting, but as you pointed out, actually that paperwork and what I've completed so far in my beginning journey as a club coach this time around is that it is very helpful, as you pointed out, in the process to really get acclimated, acquainted with the club and know exactly what you're setting out to do, some parameters and stages of achievement to document it. I think it's very helpful and very wise that they did that. It's a good idea.
I think so too. My expectation and my hope is that we will see more coaches meeting that official success of getting the club to distinguished as a result of this additional guidance in the program. And I say official success because you can definitely have success as a coach even if the club doesn't become distinguished. Learning, growing, even if the club gets up to 14 members instead of the 15 that they officially need, that can all be success. That's assuming they started with 12. There are many measures of success.
Absolutely.
Jessica, this is Ashley. I have 2 questions.
Yes.
One, how does it work if you complete that officer or the training online program that you do? How does that work if you want to, 1, be a coach, but 2, request a coach for your own club?
That's a great question. As far as I am aware, in that scenario, you would only have to take it once, and that would qualify you both to be a coach and for your club, if you're an officer, which I know you are, for your club to receive coaching. It's the same module for everyone. Does that answer that question?
Yes. And then the second question is, I guess, how long is a club coach for? I heard 2 years, but could it also vary? So it's not a set term that you're
Yes.
signing up to be a coach for?
Excellent question. We will touch on this again near the end of the presentation, but the requirement is that you serve for at least 6 months. At least 6 months. So that means that if you want that official credit, that you should try to get appointed before December 31st, because that gives you the chance to get those 6 months in before the end of the current Toastmasters year. So it's a minimum of 6 months, and the club, for the official credit, the club has to be distinguished sometime after that 6-month mark. And so that's the minimum, is 6 months. The most you can be appointed for your first term is to the end of the second year of your appointment. So if you're appointed in the 24-25 year, the current Toastmasters year that you're in, your appointment would last either until the club becomes, if the club becomes distinguished this Toastmasters year, then that's the end of your appointment. If not, your appointment continues until the end of the next Toastmasters year. So 2025 through 2026. At that point, the club is still not distinguished. They and you can choose to continue the appointment for another 2 Toastmasters years.
And Jessica, I think I heard you say this, but it's important that if they do want to be a coach, that they need to do that as soon as possible. Because
Yeah.
if it's after January 1st, then they in fact will not have had the 6 required months. But they can coach, but it would need to require going into the next Toastmaster year to achieve the credit for being the coach.
Yeah, correct. So suppose you were appointed in April and the club is distinguished, you have to serve a whole additional year and make sure they're distinguished again to get that official credit. So you can be appointed near the end of the Toastmasters year, but if that happens, the club has to be distinguished that following Toastmasters year for you to get credit as a coach.
But as you said, there are several options and leading up to the maximum of 4 Toastmaster years, in fact, if
Yeah.
needed to make that happen.
Yep. Yeah, all the nuances are a little confusing, but what I
It
put in
is.
the chat is the basic high level answer. You need to serve for at least 6 months and at most 4 Toastmasters years.
Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead, Carol.
I was going to say, I really like how this is so much more clarified, because I remember, I think it was 10 or 11 years ago, I had visited the Tally Ho Club, and Megan Jo Paulison was there, and she was leaving, and she said, how would you like to be a coach for them? And so we talked a little bit about it, and I said, yeah, sure, that would be great. So we put the paperwork in, and then there was the term coming up where you had to do dues. Well, I went and signed up as a member. The paperwork hadn't even cleared yet at headquarters for a coach, but then it popped up there, and then they said, well, she can't be a coach, she's a member. So then I had to wait from that term and then go back out as a member and wait 6 months or more, and then I could sign up later, you know. But I really like how this is all clarified in there.
Yes.
I remember that same confusion that you're talking about, Carol, when I served as a club coach, and the ambiguity about whether you could join or not, and actually about the terms you could serve to or had to, if you're club, because I in fact had to go another year to bring that to happen. It was just a little confusing on the terms, and so it's much more outlined in detail than
Yes.
how it should be done.
Yes. Now
This
it's
is
very
something-
clear. Do not join the club. You cannot join the club as a coach. You cannot have been a member in the past 6 months. You cannot join the club during your term as a coach. If your coaching term is successful and you're officially done, we'll see on the next slide how you wrap it up. When you're officially done as a coach, you're sure that you're done, you've got the credit as a coach, then you can join. But do not join before then. Because again, and the reason for that is you want to help the club achieve sustainable growth. And you don't want them to be dependent on you for that. You want them to achieve it themselves. So that's I believe that's the justification and the reasoning behind the coach not joining the club while they're coaching. Well, after the club does become distinguished, we want to make sure that the coach gets that official credit. So the club needs to confirm that the coach has completed their duties. I believe that they are to contact World Headquarters. This is a part of the process I have not been a part of yet, but I'm looking forward to being a part of it this year when we have our first successful coaches. And then the coach themselves also needs to submit a final report to the district director, or in our case, the district trio, summarizing how things went and again, making sure that it's sustainable. So is there any additional support needed from the district? What challenges might they face in the future? What are their opportunities? So it's looking forward to the future to make sure that they have achieved not just success, but sustainable success. I know that the first club I coached, I succeeded in coaching them, but a couple years after they folded anyway. So we're trying to avoid that. We're trying to avoid that temporary saving of clubs and make it a more sustainable success. And then there's a final optional but strongly encouraged step, which is for the club to fill out a 360 review for the coach and the coach to review that feedback so that they can keep growing. You've helped the club. Now the club gets to help you with that feedback and giving you that support and continuing your journey and your growth. And of course, we want to celebrate that success. I would love to be announcing all the successful coaches at our end of year parties and celebrate what you and the clubs have achieved together. Any questions about those last couple steps? Well, if you think of any other questions, do share them in the chat or at the end of this meeting. And now we get into the part that I think is fun, but also challenging, how to handle specific scenarios. And some of these might apply for any club, not just a club that's being coached or a coach that's working with a club. Some of these might apply to any club in any level of membership. So let's look at some specific things you might encounter as a coach or just as a member of a club. The first one came directly from one of your suggestions for what you wanted to discuss in this training, and that's the identity of the club, identity issues. So here's the scenario. In that meeting, the coach asks the club about their identity. Who are they as a club? What makes them unique? The officers share lots of generic strengths like helping members grow, but they struggle to define a unique identity. Now we're back to audience participation because I want to hear your thoughts. Why was the coach asking this? What value comes from defining a club identity? What do you think? Go ahead, Cynthia. Oh, make sure you unmute.
I do believe as a
Always
coach, if we are not to take their identity.
Oh, hold on, Janelle. Go ahead, Cynthia.
If they have a specific identity already, we need to, as a coach, help them continue with that identity and maybe add on to their identity. Coaches do not go in and say, you've got to do it my way or it's a highway. It's about who they are, who their club is, and how it all got started. You know, I don't want anyone coming to me and saying, Cynthia, you need to do X, Y, and Z or else. You know, that is not what we do as coaches. We try to help them understand where they're at and how they could grow. Now, they have an identity, but maybe they need a little bit extra, something else to get them to where they need to be. If they have a person in there that causes people to say, I don't want to, then we need to react in regards to that particular person who may be the person that is causing them not to have membership, or people say, I don't have the time to deal with this. Because truthfully and honestly, who has the time, to deal with someone that has some issues that's causing everybody else to say, you know what, I don't want to deal with this.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
you don't want to take their identity away. You want
Yes,
to add to their
exactly.
identity.
Yes, that is very well said, Cynthia. And that's why in this slide, this is not a scenario where the coach is coming in and telling them you need to be like this or you need to be like that. Notice that the coach asks the club about their identity. There's a lot of asking, not telling,
Asking.
asking. So you're exactly spot on, Cynthia. That's exactly right. When the club already knows what their identity is and what they want to be, that's fantastic. And when they don't, when they struggle to define that identity, it can be useful for the reason that Claire put in the chat. It might make the club attractive to certain members. It's difficult to recruit members if you don't know who you're trying to recruit. Is your club about professional growth? Is your club about engaging in the community? Is your club about speaking? Is your club about leadership? Are you trying to find a balance of both? Are you the fun club? Are you the contest preparation club? There are many different identities that a club could have. And when their identity is very generic, they look like any other Toastmasters club, and it can be more challenging to appeal to members and guests. Any other thoughts on that club identity, why it's important? So what might you do if you're not sure about your club's identity? You're asked that question and your response is, I don't know what our identity is. How might the club and the coach work together to define that identity? What are some ideas? Yes, brainstorming. It's always valuable to throw ideas out there, see what appeals, what doesn't. I think just by suggesting different options, the club can see, oh, that does sound like us, or that's not us at all. Moments of truth. I love that, Floyd. That's a great idea as well. Especially some of those first impressions, seeing what others view your club as. Discuss what the club does well. Yes, emphasizing those strengths is a key part of the club's identity. I agree with that very much. Group goal setting, yes, that's a good part of establishing your identity as well. Through setting those goals, you can see what identity you want your club to have and how they'll use that identity to achieve those goals. That's great. Wonderful, wonderful ideas. In case any of you don't know what Moments of Truth is, since Floyd did mention that, I can bring it up at the end of the session if people have questions. But that is a special training program that Toastmasters provides that you can go through with your club. It's designed to take an entire club meeting set aside to evaluate your club in different areas. So there are 6 different areas, and the club themselves evaluates themselves about how they think they're doing in those different areas. And it's very insightful because you might not know what your fellow club members think of the club, but Moments of Truth gets you all talking about it together. And you can find that on the Toastmasters website if you search for Moments of Truth. Well, now that our club has an identity or an idea of what they want their identity to be, we're going to drill in a little bit more to what Mark said about goal setting. Linda, what's another scenario you might face as a club coach or as a club?
When the club asks about a club success plan, the club admits they've not created a club success plan for years. Some officers have never even seen a club success plan. I hope everyone here knows what a club success plan is, but be that as it may, I'm going to ask, how can you get members excited about creating a club success plan? Any ideas for those who are familiar with a club success plan? Which I hope most everyone is. Any thoughts or ideas about that? I am going to toss one out. How about we make sure that every member takes ownership in this plan and understand the value and reason for doing it? Why do something if you don't understand what's behind it? And empower and challenge the members. I think that first and foremost is to know why we're doing this and that it reflects your club's values and goals. And get the members engaged and take ownership and accountability for their club's achievements. And they need the buy-in to succeed. And not only that, by getting that buy-in and looking and delving further into the goals that are mentioned within that, it might even inspire members to see that there is a pathway to achieving distinguished. It might not have been there or not been visible until members actually engage together in this process. And it really builds teamwork that way. And yes, that was on my list too, to don't take the whole chunk all at once and think you're going to do this in one meeting. It could seem very overwhelming. Take it a bit at a time, as Claire said, as an officer group, and just take those parts as you're comfortable. And yes, and it's great to realize that you can become distinguished through this process. And make it fun. Plan a celebration when you've achieved it, that you've completed that you actually have your goals and values determined and set on paper. There could be questions amongst members about certain procedures or what to do, what if, and you've outlined it right there in writing that you can refer to as a club. And have a document, as we said, that actually goes back to your identity as a club in many ways. That kind of helps solidify that. And so the second part then, what excites you or frustrates you about creating a club success plan? Comments about that? I think there could be more frustration possibilities than excitement, maybe, when people first think about a club success plan. Any ideas? And I think we've already discussed some of that, is just the sheer, maybe overwhelming thinking, oh, this is so long, we have so many questions, how can we do this? And
Right.
just kind of those type of things. But then when you look at it and start working together as a team to see that it's very doable and possible in smaller bits at a time. And then again, what excites you about it? Yeah, as Claire said, it does take time. There's no doubt about it that it does, but there are ways of getting it done and even getting excited and making it fun and celebrating it.
I think one of the things that's fun, if you haven't noticed this, they have, since last year, they have changed the club success plan in Club Central so that you can, instead of just uploading a PDF, you can enter different sections online and you get little awards, you get little badges when you
Oh,
complete different sections, and you get little
okay.
badges when you get a certain number of goals achieved. And I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. So I get excited
Yes.
about earning the little badges that says, "Hey, you completed your first section of the club success plan," or "You're halfway through," or "You've done the whole thing. Great job."
I
That is
love that.
that helps motivate and excite me.
I love it. That is awesome. And just a great feeling of camaraderie in your team that you've achieved that, I think, is really important to the process. So very good, very good. I think that pretty much covers that question on planning problems.
Yes. We've got our excitement for the club success plan. We're all ready to go. But then when it comes to the actual meeting time, we're faced with some burnout bummers. So as a club, we're committed to rebuilding. We want to rebuild, but because we've fallen down to that 3 to 12 member range, we find it hard to stay motivated. We don't have as many members as we'd like. Not every member can attend every meeting. So we feel like we don't have enough members available to run those quality meetings. Some of the members feel overwhelmed because they are taking on multiple roles each week. Does this sound familiar to anyone? So how can the club and the coach work together to reduce that burnout? And what might they do to boost that morale, to get people not feeling so burned out at these club meetings? Any ideas?
If no one
Oh, I
says
think
it.
Cynthia. I think
Oh,
Cynthia
okay, I
has
will
one.
not steal their thunder.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
Okay, so one of the things that my home club has done, because we only have like 45 minutes to be in person. So some of the things that are duplicated, such as don't have two speakers, have one speaker and one evaluator. Take things and do it a little different. Possibly even say, hey, we're just going to do all table topics. We just had a table topics where I asked the person a question and the next person had to ask a question to another person. Kind of give that little oomph in regards to doing things different. It's okay to do things differently. You're getting in some of the basics and then you're not burdening people, the same old people with the same old thing over and over again, so therefore think outside of the box. Yes, this is what Toastmasters wants us to do, but we can have one speaker instead of 2 or 3. We can have nothing but table topics, and we don't put one person in the table topic position. You ask a question, so I ask a question to Jessica, then Jessica has to ask a question to Linda, so forth and so on.
Yeah, I love that. And that's right in line with what Claire said as well. Eliminate some of those extra roles. And one thing I will note, if you do have a table topics only meeting, and you do choose to have just a single table topics master, that person can still get credit in Pathways, because there is a Pathways project called Active Listening, where the project is to serve as table topics master and demonstrate that you have listened to all the table topics answers. So even when you don't have those formal prepared speeches, you can still get club members credit in the Pathways program, which I think is really cool. Any other ideas? Linda has one. Oh, recognition for when members contribute. Oh, I love that. Yeah, that can definitely motivate people. Well, it'll motivate me because I love those little rewards. Candy, kudos in a newsletter. I love that. And then the newsletter, now you're actually writing a newsletter. You have something to put in the newsletter to get more people excited about your club. I love that. Floy. Oh, unmute. There you go.
Talking about table topics, one of the things that I like to do every so often is that my table topics questions are, every person has to say something positive about another person, compliment them with something they like, and then that person calls upon somebody else, and then until everybody in the room has received a compliment. And then you walk away feeling really good from your meeting, and it's upbeat. And it doesn't seem like you've had to work quite so hard.
Yes, I love that too. And that goes along with what Mark said about recognition for members' contributions. You can comment on the ways that they've contributed to the club. That's fantastic. I love that. Other ideas? Well, Linda, I think you can go ahead and share yours if it hasn't already been mentioned.
Well, another idea that a couple of clubs have done this back and forth, and I know other folks have had their clubs where they combine for joint meetings, and then you have more people collaborating and sharing roles and taking on roles, or get your district leaders involved to visit clubs and help take on more roles. And that kind of takes away a little bit of the burnout from doing that as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I've definitely done that before. I find that it's great to have people you don't normally meet with in the meeting and get their feedback and get their ideas and see how they do things. And it's easier to run the whole meeting when you have more people as well. And wouldn't it be neat if the coach invites their club to come and have a joint meeting with the club that they're coaching? Then the club can learn more about the coach in their own club as well. There can be even more collaboration between the groups. I think that would be excellent.
That is an awesome idea. I love that.
Any other thoughts before we move on to our final scenario? Because we have one more. They're getting progressively more challenging, you might have noticed. All right, well, Linda, why don't you share with us our
Oh,
final
there we go.
scenario?
Okay.
There we go.
Guest gaps. I think some of us may have experienced this. The club consistently holds high quality meetings, but very few guests attend. The club is posted on social media, and members have invited friends and family members, but those who do visit don't seem interested in joining as members. What additional actions might the club try to get more guests? Any thoughts on this? If we know of a low member club, visit and fill a role. Okay. Share benefits of being a member and have a themed meeting. Themed meetings are great for gaining the enthusiasm and garnering more attention and interest. Yes. Here is a question. How many times do we have guests? And I know we don't want to overwhelm them, but sometimes it works. Maybe they're just waiting to be asked to join. Think about that. And you might actually ask them to join, especially if they have attended more than once and maybe have not been asked to join. And also, you might notice at the end of a meeting, particularly, if you're asking those who have attended as guests, what their thoughts are about the meeting. What did they like about the meeting? What could be improved? Kind of get their feedback about that. Might be helpful on getting an idea of why they might not be attending. But as far as continuing to attend, okay, let's see. Promote benefits of membership. Some people perceive membership as more work. That's a very good point, Mark, to really describe the benefits, not as while you're asking as well. And that's true. They may think that's a little bit too much to just join. They enjoy being a guest, a little less work, right? And then maybe different ideas for membership building contests, membership drive, open house, speechcraft. We talked about speechcraft earlier. That might be helpful for your club, depending on how that would work on the size of your club to manage that. Then there's a Toastmasters membership building program that has different awards and recognition throughout the year, as far as the Smedley Award, the Talk Up Toastmasters around February, and then Beat the Clock toward the end. That can motivate to bring in more members and have contests and awards. And then again, the district leaders, we often don't take advantage of them for their guidance or advice on what could be the dilemma or the problem. So, and sometimes guests, maybe they do have other responsibilities, family, work, not able to come to every meeting. You might point out that that isn't necessary to come to every meeting, or maybe they just aren't committed to joining now, but things could change. So be sure you have their follow-up information as a potential person or member in the future, that picture might change for them. They might be interested in joining. Those are just a few of the ideas. Do we have any other ideas that I've missed seeing? Floyd, thank you for your patience. I see your hand there.
I just raised my hand, that's all. One of the things that, we like to do is just to tell the person they can visit several times before they have to make a decision about whether or not they can join, so they don't
Yes.
feel like it's a pressure. The second thing is if they said, well, I like the Toastmasters concept, but I can't make it this night, step up and offer them other clubs. It may not be a member for your club, but it's a member for the district. And so many of us say, well, you can go online and look it up. Go that step further and give them some ideas, because you never know, they may go visit that other club and say, I think I'm going to work my schedule. I'm going to come back to that first one. You never know. It's happened in our club before.
It has. It can happen. You're right. That is a great, great suggestion. Thank you, Floyd. Appreciate that. Okay, I think that we've covered that pretty well. And we talked about addressing the guests who don't join, how to manage that. I think we're ready to move on. When should coaching begin? As we've discussed these scenarios, when do you think it should begin? It's a 3-letter word. It begins with N, O, W. Now. Thank you, Claire. The clock is ticking, literally. And so the question I asked earlier, yes. Okay, how many District 24 clubs are actually eligible for coaches but don't have one? Any guesses? Think about it. Yeah, thank you, Claire, a lot. It's more than 10. It's more than 20. It's 30 clubs. And 5 of those have under 8 members. So as you can see, there's a great need in District 24 for club coaches. And clubs are waiting for you to provide the ideas, the energy, the support, and the excitement, and just that encouragement they need to help them succeed. And so to reiterate what the slide says, the time to begin coaching is now. And if not me, then who? You can do this. Back to you, Jessica.
Yes, and as we've already mentioned, you need to serve at least 6 months for credit. So I would absolutely love to double our number of coaches by the end of this calendar year. If we could get another 4 coaches by the end of December, I would be so thrilled. I think that would be fantastic. So now we'll talk a little bit, just to reiterate, about when the coach receives that credit. We already covered this, but I think it's important and worth covering again. So they receive the credit when the club becomes distinguished, and the club confirms that the coach was involved if they have served for at least 6 months. So those are the main requirements. The club becomes distinguished, the club confirms that you helped, and you've served for at least 6 months. And if you are appointed after December 31st, you have to make sure you get those full 6 months in before they're distinguished. So the club has to be distinguished in that second year. If they're not distinguished after that second year, the coach can be reappointed for 2 more years if the coach and the club both would like to do that. Any questions about receiving credit as a coach? And this is credit towards the Distinguished Toastmaster Award. Well, we've covered a lot tonight, and I hope that we've answered the questions that were submitted in advance. We talked about the what, who, why, how, and when of coaching. We gave you an overview of coaching, told you how you can become a coach, discussed your role as a coach. You are there to guide and direct and offer suggestions, but not to do all the work for the club. We looked at the updates in recent years with those new reports and the change where you cannot be a member while you are coaching. You cannot be a member of the club while you're coaching. We talked about how to help a club find their identity, as well as several other scenarios. And I hope that from this whole training, you now see what club coaching entails from beginning to end. So we are left with about 15 minutes for any questions that any of you have about coaching, or in fact, if you have questions about anything Toastmasters related, anything that's on your mind, I'd be happy, Linda and I would be happy to do our best to answer.
Jessica,
Yes.
how many clubs are in District 4?
That is a fantastic question. We have 48 active clubs and 41 that are above or at or above the 8-member threshold. So 48 that are actively participating in the Toastmasters program, and 41 of those that are in good standing. Any more ideas for creative table topics sessions? What a fantastic question. Some things that I have done, and I know others have done this as well, improv, where you get people to act out a scene as part of the table topics. We've done things where you have to act something out, kind of like charades, practice your body language instead of speaking. I've seen the never ending story, kind of what we were saying, where the next person asks the next question. You're telling a story as a club and you tell the story for a couple minutes and then the next person takes over. Those are some of the things that I've seen. Did I steal one of yours, Floyd? I saw your hand go down. Oh, I stole one of Floyd's. Any other ideas? Another one that I did one time that I thought was kind of fun, there are, out on the internet, there are role-playing games that you can find. So I did a table topic session based on a role-playing game where we were all members of a new community, a town, and we were building our town together. So each person that answered a table topics question, it was a question about like what should be in our town, or what should be the rules for our town, or what's our town's big celebration. It was all centered around building this world that's part of like a role-playing game where you build the world. Oh, pictures were pulled from the internet and you had to tell a story. Yes, I love that. That's a great idea. I had a member one time, I know you may not see these anymore, but she got her hand on the yellow pages from an actual physical phone book, and you had to open the yellow pages and randomly point at a business, and then you had to pitch that business and say why people should frequent that business. That was kind of fun.
I was in a club meeting where went to a bit of work, but they recorded various sounds and played one and asked you what you thought that sound could be, using your imagination and creating a scenario for that. I thought that was rather creative.
I have done one with pictures, and it was 3 pictures, calling on one person to describe what they saw in the 3 pictures, and then the next person would have to pick up the story from where they stopped.
Yeah, go ahead, Floyd.
Another one that I've seen done is that they'll bring in small paper bags and they'll put unusual objects in the bag. And you have to pull out the object and then describe it and then tell a whole story about it, what it is. Especially if you got some old-fashioned things that people don't know about today, like a rotary dial phone.
Yes. Yes, that could be fun. I like that. You could try to bring an object that you think will stump people and see what they think it is. I love that. Yeah, we've done like gift exchanges as table topics in one of my clubs before, either a white elephant style where all the gifts are in the middle and you have to pick one and unwrap it, and usually they're not very good gifts. So the challenge for the table topic is to explain why this is the best gift ever, even though it clearly is not. We also did one that was Secret Santa style, where you knew who you were getting a gift for, but they didn't know who you were. And then the gifts were exchanged in secret. And when you got your gift, you talked about it and then tried to guess who your Secret Santa was who had given you the gift. So that was also fun. And it helped us learn more about each other as a club too. And you had that extra challenge of trying to learn what a person might like without revealing that you're their you're their Secret Santa.
Yeah, one of the things that sometimes when we have to say something nice about somebody in a meeting is it cannot be Toastmaster related, something else, so that you get to know a little bit more about people. If you don't know me, at least you got to come up. I like your hair. You got beautiful eyes, or smile. You know, something another.
Yeah, I like
To
that.
get to know people other than just the Toastmaster side.
And I love that too, because if you pay attention to people's speeches, you can probably come up with something from what they've talked about in their speeches. Oh, you had to sell what you got from the White Elephant Gift Exchange. Oh, I love that.
Oh, that's carrying it even further.
Yes.
One that just came to mind is we talked about reverse meetings. Why not have reverse table topics? Give the answer first.
Oh,
Yes, I've done that as well. It's very fun. The person can talk about whatever they want, and then it's on the table topics master to come up with a question that might have been the answer for. It's like Jeopardy.
fun, fun.
I've seen Jeopardy done as a table topic session too. When they didn't have a speaker, they'd have something like that for the meeting.
Zoom also has an app I think it's called Donuts, which gives you random questions that you can ask from various different topics. And you can use that during table topics.
What did you say that's called?
Donuts,
Donuts. Interesting.
Donuts. I think it has an S.
Okay, that's cool. I'll have to check that out.
I'm in table topics, right? I'm in teammates as a mentor, and they have, and I know Toastmasters has this too. I think you can get them online, different questions, but they have it's on a little ring, a whole bunch of different ideas for questions to get to know your teammate better. And in the same way, Toastmasters, I think you can order those as well to help give ideas for table topics questions.
Well, we can have a quick table topics question here, and I auction off a box of questions
Oh,
from
yeah, the
Toastmasters
chat
right now.
tab.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
This is the
about.
collector's item now,
Yeah.
from back in the
still have
70s, back in the 80s, 80s, 90s.
I thought they still have those you
They
can get
do.
somewhere.
They
Maybe
do.
for new clubs. I think maybe
Yes.
for new clubs they
Yes.
give those
Yes.
out.
We've been
Okay.
talking about helping existing clubs, but if
Yeah, it's called
a
a
new
chat
club,
pack.
yes. Yes, and if a
Called
new
a
club
chat
partners, they
pack.
get one of those. Yeah, sorry, I was talking over Floy a bit there. I didn't mean
That's
to. The
okay.
chat pack.
Yep.
Rat pack, chat pack.
Rat pack, chat pack.
Wow,
Well,
those are great ideas. A lot of great ideas.
Yeah, and thank you, Jessica and Linda, for doing this presentation. I really liked it. Everything was so well organized, and being a coach now, you know exactly where you are, what steps you need to do, and everything. So that's really great.
Yeah, and we're here to help and learn together. I don't know. I think we've maybe had maybe one or two people that have done the new coaching program successfully, but if that we haven't had many. So I'm excited to see how it all turns out and hear from Linda and the other coaches about their experience as they go through it. And hopefully a few of you will sign on to be coaches. Any last questions before we go?
Well, I
Some
wish
great,
every-
Oh,
great
did you
comments and questions though tonight that really added to the discussion.
Did you have one more, Claire?
I just wanted to say that you mentioned moments of truth, and my home club, Capital Voices, did that on November 8th. And then the officers looked at it a couple days ago to really look at the results. It was a smaller group. We would have liked to have more members present on that particular meeting, but we had, believe it or not, we had 4 pages typed up of comments, and they were, just positive things that we did. So we listed everything. And then there were probably a dozen, mostly small things that the club can try to do to help people. A very simple one is that the church added a new keypad on the south door, and we need to put that in our email that goes out to people joining the meeting, because the present paragraph only talks about the keypad where you drive into the underground parking. Well, if they go to the door, that south door has started to be locked because there's too much transient traffic that would randomly come into the building, and there might only be 1 or 2 people in the building, and it was kind of spooking out the staff. So but Moments of Truth has got a lot of value. So give that some thought about doing if you haven't done that recently. We hadn't done it it'd been 2 years since we had done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you haven't seen it before, you can search toastmasters.org for Moments of Truth, or you can just Google Moments of Truth Toastmasters. And this is part of it. This is the handout where you can do the self-assessment of
Yes.
how well do we do these different things. The different categories: first impressions, membership orientation, fellowship variety and communication, planning and organization, membership strength, and achievement recognition. So you can see how you would rank the club in all of those categories, and anything that is not quite so good, you can come up with ways to improve.
We had one of the members where it's toward the top of that page where it says, is there a guest book and is it used or something? And one of our newer members, he is actually an officer and he's VP membership, but he didn't realize there was a guest book on the back table, that we've used a guest book for the last 20 some years. And that's where the guest packets are at. But he just didn't realize it was back there. So it's just a matter of, sometimes you do things and it's become part of the landscape and you just forget that not everybody knows that it's there. And so you just have to share that information. But I thought it was kind of funny.
Yes. Yeah, I had it not quite the same, but for our meeting yesterday, I put out the guest book. We had a guest who was a former member, and she didn't see the guest book at the beginning of the meeting, but at the end of the meeting when she was leaving, she was like, oh, I should probably sign that.
We had another member say, well, it'd be really good if we would get the guest's email address and contact information so that we could follow up with them. Oh, hello, we've been doing that for 20 years too. And we've been an officer for almost every year for umpteen years. It's like, yes, that is being done. Not a problem. And the person who didn't know the guest book knew about the contact information, because I do an email and then he does an email also. So they hear from 2 officers.